good morning. Unmuting myself, and looking down, I had this button which is meant to work, mute, unmute. Now half the time I'm forgetting, and now the button doesn't work. But good morning everyone, welcome to Solid Ground on this, the last day of July. I don't know about you, but I have no idea where the year is going. But as I often quote from my wife, and I'm not sure where she got it from, it might be an original, but as she says, the days are long, but the years go quickly. And I can't believe that come tomorrow we'll be in August. But I hope this finds you all well, and I suspect wide awake after a certain text message or alarm went off on most of your phones at 6:30 this morning, which was quite a rude awakening, I'd have to say. We've got 4 in the house at the moment, as in 4 people, which means at least 4 cell phones. So all went off and all hell broke loose. So anyway, I might actually come to that in a moment. But first and foremost, welcome to Solid Ground, particularly to new viewers. We know that literally hundreds and thousands view these shows over the course of not only the morning, but the days following. We're so grateful to each and every one of you who are part of these family first shows. There's many of them. In fact, I've got a new little promo to run for you near the end, which I think is pretty exciting, and our team have pulled together. For those who are joining us for the first time, know that this is live. I'm discussing the issues which have caught my eye over the last probably 48 hours, because I do this show on a Tuesday and a Thursday, just catching issues. But know that this, by being live, means that you can send in your questions, your thoughts, on topics that maybe I'm not discussing. If you've got a question about something happening in New Zealand or around the world, put the question in the Family First Facebook page or Family First YouTube channel. This is streaming across multiple channels. It's on my Facebook page, on my LinkedIn, it's going across X. That's all great. Comments there are all welcome. But for them to come live into the studio so I can see them immediately, go to the Family First, as I say, YouTube or Facebook page, and get to, have your say. And as I say, not only commenting on what I'm saying, if you agree, disagree, think I'm completely barking mad, but equally you're going, hey, this and this has happened, what do you think? And I'm do my best to respond. But as people know, I always love to say good morning. So hello, Catherine, lovely to have you along. Harrison, we couldn't do a show without you. Who notes the civil defence alert was a secret reminder to get up and watch Solid Ground this morning. Yes, that is great. I will just say for the audience, I had nothing to do with the with the alerts. And it's lovely to know it's not raining, Jackie, down there in Aotearoa. I must say I'm looking forward to spring starting. Good morning to Edmund, lovely to have you on. Lynette, good morning. Mike, lovely to have you there. Jackie's also noting another comment about the tsunami warnings. I'm actually going to talk a little bit about that. Good morning, Michael. Lovely to have you along. Morning to Muddy Waters. Well, I'd have to say there's a lot of those around the country at the moment. Jackie's saying that they're not getting... Oh, that's interesting. Sorry, this is around the tsunami alerts. I can see some people asking why they do and don't get them. Again, I'll come to that in a moment, but good morning. Good morning, Nigel. Lovely to have you along. I think you win the first Facebook comment. I don't know what it is. When I turn the comments on from YouTube, instant. Facebook takes quite a while. Good morning from the paradise of Taupo, says Rosie. Good morning to have you along as always. William says the alert helped him find his phone. Abs, that is good. I'm quite a man of habit, so I pretty much always know where my things are. So lovely. And good morning to Darren. Again, guys, I very much appreciate having you all along. I think there's a little community. Actually, the word little is not quite correct anymore. We have quite a community building. And as I say, if you've got thoughts or questions, hit me up. Always happy to discuss them. I thought I would actually start with the tsunami. This was the alert, just a little bit of a screenshot I took at 6:30 this morning. I'm not even sure where to delve into this, because at one level, I think we're getting into a little bit of the boy who cried wolf element, but at the other side, I think we need to, and good morning to Judith, by the way, good morning. I'm sort of torn on this whole tsunami question. I mean, gosh, it's only been, 12 or so hours. I'm sort of torn between what I see as sort of hyperventilating into these issues and others. Everything has to be very dramatic. But on the other side too, you want to be careful. And I suspect with our health and safety legislation, the likes of civil defence and others have to be exceptionally cautious, because obviously you don't want to under-report or under-warn and then something goes terribly, terribly wrong. But I had to say, when I got the alert this morning, my first reaction, definitely not panic, but first reaction was, okay, something actually serious is going wrong if a further alert is needed after last evening. Because I don't know if you've been following the news much, but obviously you would have received the alerts yesterday. Quite clear that if you're near the shore, get away from it. So Rach and I live relatively close to the water, and so okay, make sure you're not going to go down there for a swim, a surf, or the like. But as I was watching the reports from overseas, I was moving between CNN and Fox and BBC, because I've got Sky, you see, the 3 news channels that I can easily access. Someone might say, what about Al Jazeera? It is not worth watching at all. It's just a propaganda, and I suppose most of them are. But as I was bouncing between them, and they were reporting from the likes of Hawaii, Japan, and elsewhere, to me, and I'm not an expert, but to me, it wasn't as serious as it could potentially be. Certainly a few more waves, certainly higher waves than normal, but not the great drama that could have happened. We all remember tragic scenes and happenings in Japan a few years ago. So with that sort of information, I don't know, again, I want to stress I'm not an expert. I would have expected people not to have been so dramatic, as I say, within our civil defence or whoever's involved with sending out these alarms. Because when it went off at 6:30, I went, oh gosh, something even more serious has happened. I suppose that's what I'm trying to get at. When I think about last night and going to bed, to me it was pretty clear that while there was some danger, it was fairly minor. Again, if you're looking at what's happened to Japan, Hawaii, and other islands north of us. So I assume a bit of panic across the country. People have been asking, I can see in the comments, again, why some did and some didn't, and it seemed to be comprehensively around the country, certainly on the coastline. So my understanding, first and foremost, all of New Zealand's coastline is at risk after an earthquake like this, so the earthquake in Russia. And secondly, as some have been messaging as well, if you're more inland, you're not receiving the messages, because I think it's basically targeted by cell phone towers. So it's not like a message being sent to every phone, it's sending it to certain cell phone towers. So you can imagine those closer to the coastline, closer to the shore, and phones that are connected to it receive the message. So it gets all quite dramatic. Simply Green, though, so I'll take some comments here, is noting not opposed to any of the alarms until it's forced. Yeah, and I think, I'm not going to go through the options. There are ways to turn it off. Personally, I think they're good to have. I'd much prefer to be warned. But as I said at the start, there is a small part of me is beginning to worry that we could end up with the boy who cried wolf. This is not the first time that civil defence has been stood up. Last night they were talking about evacuation centres have been opened. And again, there's always that balance, isn't there, people, between precaution. You've got to be precautious, but also maybe overcooking it, because all this effort to set up evacuation centres to date, now look, I might have to chew my words in a few hours, but to date, I think 2 people have accessed said evacuation centres. We've had all these dramatic alarms coming through, just like we've had in weeks past. And I just worry that over time we might end up being desensitised to it. And it was Rachel said it to me this morning, that awful tragedy a few weeks ago in Texas, where particularly that, I think it was like a Christian girls' camp, 20 or so were killed, swept away. The locals said one of the reasons why they think the tragedy happened is there's often so many alerts that people just become desensitized. And I think about a lot of our reporting now. Again, you may have your own perspectives, but I think about a lot of the reporting, particularly around weather, to me is, again, over-dramatic, hyperventilating. It rains. We do have storms. We do have landslides. We've had really major storms in the past. We can think about the storms in Auckland 2 years ago. Very dramatic. But now, every time it's not a sunny day, to me it seems, media, in particular mainstream media, hyperventilate. And ultra dramatic. And probably more because it's wanting to serve a narrative around climate change. And I personally think we can keep those two separate. You can discuss climate change till the cows come home, quite literally. But you can also just discuss the weather with a modicum of moderation. There we go. There's the phrase for the morning, a modicum of moderation. Because as I say, there's just this drama, and particularly with the younger ones that I talk to, I'm thinking almost, kids to early teenagers, getting quite anxious and worried about the winter storms. And it's like, guys, we've always had storms. It rains, there's thunder, there's lightning, there's a lot of wind. It's called winter. It's not that unusual. So anyway, I just thought, we've just got to be, easy for me to say, we've just got to be careful. So I'm just looking at the comments here. There's so many. We have entities saying we have nothing to fear but fear itself. Good morning to Dennis. Lovely to have you along. Sorry, as I sometimes do get overwhelmed. There's so many comments. We've got Rabbit Hole. Good morning to you. Lovely to have you along. I really have lost. Entity saying everyone to stay home, but that's true. And Catherine noting how many people run. Yeah, a lot will. It's sort of that counterintuitive element of our humanness, that you get a warning like this and then you go running to the beach. As I said, I'm relatively close to the water, so I'll be interested to see. Just see if I can get back to my... There we go. Melanie's saying climate change or climate cycles. Look, these are points that I think can be well debated, but it's getting very difficult, I think, in modern society now. In fact, I'm just finishing a little Substack. I wrote one on Tuesday morning, or released it Tuesday morning. I'm writing another one, again, just pointing out how media basically takes a moral position on a whole lot of issues, and climate change is one of them as well. As I say, I think we can discuss it, but we don't have to hyperventilate on every topic on every event that happens, or every little rainstorm. That's no good. Entity Kingdom saying the 11-year-old was crying. Yeah, and I think this is what it's illustrative of, it's the balance between, of course, we need these alerts when there is an absolute serious and threat of life. I'm not convinced from what I can see at the moment that blasting people's phone at 6:30 this morning achieved anything. As I say, my first response was, hey, something serious has gone wrong. Things have escalated. But it hadn't. The message was pretty much the same as we had last night. Another topic, away from potential tsunamis, storm surges. Oh, by the way, do follow the advice. I shouldn't undercook any of this. Do follow the advice. I would not go running down to the water's edge. I would not be going swimming. We have our wonderful iceberg club here. Don't go swimming. Don't go surfing. Follow the advice. Don't be the disaster tourist. This is a topic which has popped up from time. Now, this guy, you can see, he's a parking warden, or used to be, might have been. He was a Labour Party candidate at one point. His name is Morgan Zhao. And long and short, he's been harassing journalists in New Zealand who are, not supportive of the Chinese Communist Party. This is all in New Zealand, by the way, so I want to make this clear. This guy has been weaponising what's known as the Harmful Digital Communications Act to try and silence New Zealand journalists. Two in particular, who themselves are Chinese, Hong Kong, and speak out about the excesses of the CCP, particularly here in New Zealand. So that's Justin Wong from Stuff and Portia Mao. I know them both, but I particularly know Portia very well. I've worked with her for years. Both I have immense respect for, because actually they are people within that New Zealand community prepared to speak up, and as journalists report what is happening, particularly by the CCP in New Zealand and their influence operations and so on. And again, kudos to Portia and to Justin, because while most politicians and journalists turn their eyes and ears away from what's happening, they've stepped forward. But this guy, Morgan Zhao, decided, he goes by the handle Demon King, which begins to tell you quite a bit, but he's weaponized that piece of law, which actually was passed, I think, when Amy Adams was the minister. So it was a national government. I recall at the time being quite uncomfortable with it, for reasons I couldn't quite explain at the time. So anyway, this guy has taken these people to court. He's failed, and I suppose I should have got to that relatively quickly. He's failed. Fortunately, the judges in this case have seen sense and said, look, it's just ridiculous that this is even coming here. But it shows you that the law, I would argue, is not working, and it definitely needs a review. The fact that people can even be taken to court around doing your journalistic work. So he basically, this guy, Morgan, just accused the journalist of talking about him. And one of the journalists in particular was pointing out how he has been trolling and harassing democracy activists online. So Portia was just doing her job. But he managed to get her firstly silenced, what they call an ex parte judgment. In other words, the court puts a judgment down on you just on the word of one party. So Portia got gagged before she had even a chance to have a say. Fortunately, the Free Speech Union and others got involved. But, this is a good example of how authoritarian regimes like China are able to influence through our own laws. They misuse our own laws. And I think really it beholds the government to remove the act or to update it to stop this sort of stupidity. I mean, there is a need for some laws around harmful digital communication. I mean, we can all think, not going to give you suggestions, but we can all think of how social media in particular can be weaponized to a stage where it is just totally abusive. But these CCP proxies, like Morgan, and it's a good illustration that I've said before to you guys that we are being influenced in this country, and these guys know our laws better than we do. So, yeah, just wanted to draw attention to that. And again, fortunately, the courts sided with him. But you might have heard others say before, the process is the punishment. So you imagine if you were Justin or Portia, just the time, the cost, the anxiety of actually being drawn through a court case. So yeah, the law needs changing. Simply Green says, a CCP agent's harassing New Zealanders and we want to get closer to China. Look, I've been banging this drum for a long time. Whether he's formally an agent or not, there's always these wannabes, but he's certainly acting in the interests of the CCP and continues, by the way, to harass New Zealanders. The irony is, this is the guy taking people to court when perhaps he should be himself. But this is also, as Simply Green touches on, we want to get closer to China. I have no confidence at all that any of our officials, be they the bureaucrats or the political leaders, are actually saying what needs to be said to China. They interfere in our country all the time. And basically, I think that gets ignored, played down. It's very, very problematic. Catherine says that, no, it shouldn't be pandering, although the system is blind. The fact that he's, pushing a CCP line or harassing journalists doesn't come into it. It's just that the law is badly written. To be honest, it's badly written so that it allows this to happen. And yeah, Peter says, look, what's happening in Australia, UK and Canada? Absolutely. New Zealand would be naive to think that it's not happening here, which is why I'll just quickly touch on this. I can't remember if I raised it before, and apologies if I have, but this is just another example. And again, note the relative silence, if not near complete silence, from our politicians, which is incredibly disappointing. So in this case, one of the great tactics of the CCP is to accuse Chinese living overseas, the Chinese diaspora, of financial crime. So they particularly say that if you're a democracy activist or you're calling out, again, the CCP excesses. Obviously, there will be some people who are literal financial fraudsters, but it's one of the key plays from the CCP. If they don't like what you're saying, and you're living in Australia or New Zealand, Canada or the UK, they will accuse you of financial crime. They usually try to cajole you to come back, often with threats to your family, back in China. But part of what they do now is obviously use their own police forces. And they put out a red notice, or they say to the New Zealand police, hey, such and such has been accused of crime here in China. We want to talk to them. And so this has been happening quite regularly. But as the headline says, and Justin Wong is actually the journalist, the one I mentioned earlier. New Zealand police have no idea how many times Chinese police officers have been allowed to interview New Zealand Chinese. I mean, that is appalling. I can tell you right now, the Chinese authorities would know each and every time a New Zealand police officer interviewed one of its citizens in China, if even a New Zealand police officer was allowed to do so. But long and short, we are allowing Chinese officials, people of the Chinese authoritarian state, to come here, interview, and I would argue harass New Zealand citizens and permanent residents. And it is completely and totally unacceptable that it's happening in the first place. You'll know I've talked before about the actual Chinese police stations operating in New Zealand. We think there's at least 2, potentially 5. Again, the government has gone completely silent on this. And the same as asylum on this situation. I mean, how is it that this is even allowed to happen? I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Hey, look, a couple of last quick thoughts, because once again, time is flying by. This is coming out of, I think, the UK, and it sort of links into what I was saying earlier around the CCP. Again, stifling of speech left, right and centre. And this was just coming out of the UK, noting that actually a majority of, in this case, older white males, so I suppose I'm one of them, feel they can't say what they want to say. And I'm sure there'll be some who go, well, it's older white males. Of course, that's not only ageist, sexist and racist, but everyone's allowed to have their say. And I know it's one of my pet hobby horses, but free speech is just so essential to a functioning democracy. And you'll hear on solid ground, you'll see it in my Substack writing, even on my RCR interviews and the podcasts I do for Family First. There's a bit of a theme into this space, because what I see happening, whether it's CCP stooges trying to silence journalists, whether it's the likes of stuff running basically propaganda for various causes, be it the treaty, climate change or Hamas, whether it's surveys like this saying that people just do not feel they can speak. Did an interview the other week with the Free Speech Union, Steph from the Free Speech Union, about academics, about how few academics in New Zealand's universities feel free enough to speak. This is deeply worrying, and you're beginning to see the consequences of this, I would suggest to you, playing out in the UK around the immigration issue. Again, there'll be a variety of views about it, and what you think about immigration at this particular moment is not the relevant point. The relevant point is there is growing anger across the country, not only around what's happening, but the fact that they're not allowed to speak. As soon as someone says, look, I'm a bit concerned about X, Y, and Z, or crimes that have been happening since we've allowed refugees in, they're instantly called racist, fascist, all the labels. The usual left-wing suspects turn out and counter-protest, but there's a real burgeoning anger in that country, and I'm quite genuinely worried from what I can see at a distance about what's going to happen. I think I see a few comments come in that it's going to burst. There's real anger, and I would put part of it not down to literally older white males, but if you're not able to express your views and be heard, it bubbles up in other sort of ways, and I don't think that's going to help at all. So anyway, just a few little thoughts there. Hey, look, tonight we've obviously got, well, maybe not obvious to people, we've got political playback at 5 o'clock. I've held back talking on some of the topics that Bob and I will be discussing, but a wide range of political topics from the last week. So do tune in live from 5 o'clock. Bob and I will both be there bantering on everything from gang numbers to Oranga Tamariki, the booing of the PM at the netball game, to everything else in between. So no shortage of topics there. Reminder, of course, the forum on the family, it's now less than a month away. There are still some seats, which is exciting for those of you who haven't bought them yet. It does sell out, so make sure you get your tickets. And the last thing I thought I'd do is I'm going to give this a little bit of a preview, then I'll come and say goodbye. But this is a neat little video the team have put together to let you know about all the content that we have available for you.
Family First is bringing you conservative conversations, commentary and content. And now you can access these important discussions in the format that you prefer. Watch, read, listen. You can watch our content on our website, familyfirst.nz. Simply click on the Watch tab and you'll see all our various programs that you can view. You can also watch these across our social media channels: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, TikTok, Threads and Blue Sky. Everywhere. If you'd prefer to listen while you go about your daily activities or are travelling in a vehicle, then click on the Listen tab and the latest content is there for you to listen to. You can also find us on Spotify under Family First NZ. And if you prefer to read our commentary, then click on the Read tab. We're increasing the frequency of our written commentary, focusing on the latest research and analysing the current news events which are relevant to families and society. We provide the insight and context which you won't get from the mainstream media. We're also now adding the full scripts of Family Matters and McBlog under the video link in our website, and also written summaries on our live stream shows so that you can read and digest the material at your own pace. Consume our conservative conversations in the way that best suits you. Watch, read, listen. Go to familyfirst.nz and join the conversation.
There we go. Amazing piece of work. There we have a guy called Gordon. He's quietly behind the scenes. You won't see him like Bob and I behind the microphone, but he's amazing and does a great job pulling all of this together. So thanks to him, to all of you for joining me this morning. I look forward to seeing you all on solid ground next Tuesday. And as I say, I will look forward to seeing you all who can make it tonight from 5. So in the meantime, have a wonderful day as I try to find my last little screens here. Oh yes, have a wonderful day. Stay safe. Don't go too near the beach for now. And as I said, look forward to talking to you again soon.